In this video, I'm going to show you why medicine ball throws don't translate to clubhead speed like you think they do. And instead, I'm going to show you what we found actually works better. I'm Chris Fitt, and I've spent the last decade studying how to use biomechanics and training to increase clubhead speed when it comes to the game of golf. We recently tested whether med ball training actually increases clubhead speed, and the results were pretty eye-opening. By the end of this video, you're going to know why medicine balls are not the answer when you're trying to increase clubhead speed, and instead what you can do to add some serious swing speed when it comes to your golf game. So let's get into this experiment that we ran. So we did it over a course of 12 weeks, so 3 months. And that's typically what we do here at P4S Golf is we will build out training programs for our people in-house about 3 months at a time. And what we did is we controlled for everything, strength training, what exercises they were doing, the volume that they were doing, what days they did it on, like literally everything. And then the only variable that we included was the specific power training. So if you think of a performance pyramid, which is what we use here at Par for Success, the base level is mobility. The second level is strength and power, and then we get into speed. So what we did is we actually basically standardized for the bottom levels. If you think about development of speed, you have to have mobility, then power, or then strength, and then once you have those two, then you can develop really safe power. So that's the variable that we played with. And because medicine ball throws, unlike what most people use medicine balls for, where they will throw a medicine ball 20, 30 times, which actually is endurance-based training. So that's myth one. Throwing a medicine ball 20 times against the wall is not actually going to help you increase clubhead speed because you're not training power. You're just basically doing an endurance-based exercise. So what we wanted to do is when we're training power, no more than basically 5 reps max, and we're going as hard as we can. So we split these groups. We had 15 golfers split into basically a vertical and a chest pass group, or a chest power group, and then we had another that was split into the medicine ball group. Now the medicine ball group, they did your standard throws. They take a medicine ball, throwing it, different variations of throwing medicine balls against a cinder block wall. Definitely don't do it against a drywall. You'll put a hole in the wall. So use a cinder block wall; it'll bounce back to you. Right, and they were doing those types of rotational throws. The other group, the vertical and the chest pass, they worked on everything, plyometric jumps, box jumps. They worked on chest passes or explosive chest movements. Same thing, no more than 4 to 5 reps. Basically we're about 4 sets of 5. Obviously taking rests in between so we could be explosive. And that was the breakout of the two groups. Everything else exactly the same, strength training, everything. The only difference was one group was doing medicine ball for power training. The other group was doing vertical leap and chest pass or chest power, so push power. Those are the two tests that have a statistically significant, basically measure in terms of causation for clubhead speed that we found through all of our research. So we had one group to that, and we had another group to this, and the results that we found were pretty interesting. So what we found was this, that if we looked at basically the way we tested in the beginning and the end to look, because ultimately all we care about is did this impact clubhead speed. So we looked at 5, once we got people with the same warm-up protocols before they swung, then they would take 5 swings. We would tell them, just take normal swings like you're playing on a par 5, trying to keep it in the fairway. We call that's the exact words we used. We call that your gamer swing. Then we said, after they did those 5, now take 5 swings. You don't care where the ball goes, swing as hard as you can, and we call that an all-out swing. And then what we did is we take we would throw out high and low. We'd take the average of the middle ones before and then after the 12 weeks. And so what we found was this. The group that did the chest pass, not the chest pass, the medicine ball training, saw less than 1% increase in clubhead speed. The group that did the chest passes or the chest push power exercises, so med balls, explosive with bands or cables, those sorts of things, flywheels, and then the vertical leap work, they saw over 4% gains. So we put it in percentage wise, a 4% gain to less than a 1% gain. So it's a 4x return for doing vertical and chest power based work as opposed to medicine ball throws. If we put that in clubhead speed metrics, we're talking about 4 miles an hour was actually a little less than 1 mile an hour. Now, if we want to continue the conversion to yards, that's over 10 yards gained and maybe 2 to 3 yards gained. Okay, so it's a club difference basically for training the correct way when everything else is controlled for. If we talked about the all-out speed, we actually saw 5 to 6% increase in the vertical leap in the chest pass group, or the chest power group. And in the medicine ball group, it was a little better than gamer, a little better than like 0.4%, but still nowhere near where we saw in the 5+% gain on the lower body vertical leap and the upper body push power. So the reasons why that works so well is for a number of them, and I'm going to give you 3. Number 1 is when we talk about ground forces, the number 1 most important force with speed is going to be your vertical peak power. So particularly on your lead leg. So if you're a right-handed player and you're driving into your lead leg, when you push up to clear that left hip, obviously it's combined with toe heel forces and obviously horizontal forces, but vertical is the peak one, and obviously timing of that matters. By working on vertical training in the golf, in their golf fitness program, we saw a much bigger translation improvement in the vertical forces, which is going to drive up club head speed. So that's the number 1 reason why we saw that difference. The other reason is what we actually have done since is we've actually put on kinematic markers on people while they've been throwing medicine balls. And what we see is that if you use too heavy a medicine ball or too light of a medicine ball, you actually, and if you're not coaching the correct patterns, we actually can see poor sequencing with medicine balls. So, for instance, someone's using a light medicine ball and they're just hammering it this way, right? My hips aren't moving. I'm just hammering upper body, the ball's bouncing off the wall coming back, as opposed to driving and coaching people to drive up off that lead leg. There can actually be a lack of transfer because we're just not coaching it correctly, right? And this was a standardization intentionally in this study, was just, hey, throw medicine balls like every one of you at a gym does right now. And so that was big reason number 2, is that most people just do medicine ball training the wrong way, and they actually train the wrong kinematic sequences. And number 3 is what I just alluded to, that when you're doing medicine ball training, a lot of people don't kinetically use the ground the correct way. So there are actually some cool tests that we've done. This is probably another video that you'll need to check out when we film it. And it's going to be about basically the medicine ball drills and what forces that they actually train. So if you needed to produce a vertical force, there can be cues of driving up off the lead leg. There can be an overhead slam drill. There's lots of other drills that you can do as opposed to just throwing a medicine ball around. Maybe you need to develop more horizontal, right? This is where you start getting really specific into transfer training. So medicine balls, while they have a place in performance training, we find them more so when you need to use them kind of like a surgeon uses a knife, very specifically in a very specific area at a very specific time for the right person. So right drill, right person, right time. If we're talking about just generally increasing club head speed, vertical power, upper body push power, kind of a broad fixes everything in a way. And that if we can get better in those 2 areas, the likelihood that you're going to see an improvement in club head speed is, like, I don't want to say guaranteed, but very, very strong. So those are the big 3 reasons why we saw the basically lower body or the vertical peak power and the upper body push power group outperform massively, like 4x, the group who's just throwing medicine balls, like we see a lot of golfers do at the gym, and they think that they're getting better at golf. So big myth busted in this study, which is pretty cool. So I want to give you one more bonus item here, and that is overspeed training. Now, this is something we didn't train in this study, but we're talking about speed. So I figured it made sense to talk about it. Now, we have a whole video on this, which you should definitely go watch. It's somewhere around this screen. Go click on that. Go watch that video if you really want to learn more in depth about it. But the reason why we didn't test overspeed training here is because what we wanted to train is the actual power training element and which one worked better, as opposed to overspeed training, which is actually a neurological phenomenon. You're not actually getting stronger or training power. What you're doing is you're training your speed. Now, for all of you physics geeks out there, right? Power is force times speed, right? How fast can you deliver that force that you're applying? We were looking at the force production element and training that, as opposed, because obviously we're using heavier implements, medicine balls, jumping, which is your body, right? Pushing with loads, right? And you can obviously go heavy loads or light loads, and that gets into a whole nother video as well, talking about where are you on the force velocity curves. But overspeed training is definitely a tool to use. But I think the big cautionary tale, and we'll talk about this more in the other video that we have, which definitely go check it out, because we're going to give you kind of the keys of how to know if you're safe to do overspeed training. We'll talk about the specific mobility metrics you need to hit, and the specific strength metrics that you need to hit, and the specific power metrics that you need to hit. So this study is actually figuring out the prerequisite for overspeed training and to figure out if that's going to be the best option for you. And I'll go back again. Are you the right person to do overspeed training? Is that the right thing at this right time? And if the answer is yes to those three, then obviously then overspeed training would be a tool or a technique that we would look to use. So definitely check that video out and figure out if that's something for you as well. So in conclusion, to give you kind of just the 10,000 foot view, if you're trying to increase club head speed, medicine balls suck. If we're talking about the power side. Now, they do have their place. 100% they have their place. And if they're used in the right way, with the right person at the right time, then they actually can increase club head speed if you're working on them to improve the kinetic use of the ground. So how well you're driving. There's different drills we can use to drive horizontal forces, vertical forces, toe heel forces. There's also other drills that you can do with medicine balls to, if you use a heavy medicine ball, for example, you'll create more X factor stretch, or the hips will drive a little bit, little earlier, as opposed to a lighter ball will tend to kind of, be everything at one or more upper body dominant. Coaching is a huge element or huge key to the success of medicine ball training. So while it looks super simple, medicine ball training is actually relatively complex compared to where we saw a 4 times the return on club head speed, which was training vertical peak power and upper body push power. Both pretty simple in terms of there's not a ton of technique coaching necessary in terms of how to do that. There's not a lot of intricacies there. So when we're looking at the general golfer, doing that in your program, it's a 4 times return and it's less technically complex. 100% the winner. That's where I would focus. That's where we focus all of our programming, is driving those numbers up and up and up and up. And obviously then the bonus is, the question is always, well, can I just do overspeed training? There's lots of different systems out there that you can look at using. I would definitely go check out the overspeed video that we have, which will dive into detail in terms of identifying if overspeed training is right for you based on, is it the right time? Do you pass all the prerequisites? And is it truly the biggest ROI in terms of all the options that you have to increase your club head speed? But at the end of the day, throw the medicine ball away. For most of you watching this, go do vertical and upper body push power work in the gym. And that's going to give you, on average, we saw in 12 weeks, like I said, over 10 yards of gain when everything else is controlled for, including all the strength programming. So hopefully that was helpful. Definitely go check out that other video that we have on the overspeed training. That's a great dovetail from what we talked about today. And thanks as always for hanging out with me here, and hopefully you learned something. And don't forget to subscribe for more science-backed golf performance tips.